Hi, I'm Peter Panagore, yogi, master's degree of divinity from the Ivy League, and renegade liberal clergy, mystical misfit, transcendental free thinker, near death experiencer times two, out of body experiencer many times, oneness experiencer, pointing at the mystery, capital M, soul lover, because I am infinitely loved, a seeker just like you. Welcome to my mystical channel where we seek source, capital S, using many sources from the East and the West. My major training is in the West, so I speak mysticism mostly with a Christian accent, not church. No doctrine, no dogma, no BS, no theology. If you just joined us last week, then you heard about Paul, who spoke wisdom when he spoke through experience and sounded a bit like a jerk when he didn't. Everyone knows in part, and none of us know in full, including Paul and especially me. Check it out for yourself, last week's video. Peace and welcome. This week, Sermon on the Mount, What Being Dead Taught Me, by way of multiple requests. So let's set the tone with a time of community centering, as we do every single week. And distance makes no difference in time or space. The now, capital N, is unchanging and always present. Hey, thank you, Carmen. The now is always unchanging, eternal, and present. The now is the presence, capital P, of the divine, capital D. Now, basic beginner meditation by request. So you pick a prayer, a chant, and you repeat it. That's it. That's kind of it. Anytime your mind wanders, just return to your prayer chant, to your mantra. You ride your prayer gently on your breath into your belly. You pause. You control your exhalation while continuing your prayer chant inside your head as you release your breath through your nose, in and out. And we usually begin with 3 ohms because I am a fan of Patanjali and the Yoga Sutras, and I've been practicing Kriya Yoga for as long as I've been practicing centering prayer meditation, a little bit less by a couple of years. Thank you very much, Nancy, for the super chat. All right, so 3 ohms. Let me know if you like doing the ohms. Okay, let me know that in the comments, in the comments or the chat. Although I don't really read the chat, so in the comments that'd be great. Followed by a time of prayer, meditation, centering prayer. Okay, centering prayer is what we do after. So 3 ohms we begin with. We do a little bit of centering prayer, which is the chanting of the mantra word that I just said. When your mind wanders, always go back to your prayer. If your mind gets attached to something, always go back to your prayer. Aim your intention at Allah. Aim your intention at Allah. How's that for a twist of words there? I use the Jesus prayer in my meditation. So here we begin. I'm going to put my remote control for my iPad prompter. Thank you, Nancy, for the super chat. And we're going to begin with 3 ohms. And I'm going to sit up straight. I'm going to belly breathe for my ohms and fill my chest, vibrate my throat, vibrate my third eye, drive it right up through my jaw, right out there. Okay, and then we're going to have a few moments of centering prayer. So this is to raise our prana, to raise our energy. Here we go. Relax, belly breath, nasal breathing. Focus on your chant. Jesus said, "Where two or three are gathered, I am there." When we center ourselves together as a community, we share the divine light in each other's presence through each other's hearts and chakras. We communicate the divine radiance to ourselves and to each other, within, among, and between. Heaven is here now. That's why we practice this, to bring heaven to us individually and collectively. Sermon on the Mount. What being dead taught me. One day Jesus saw a vast crowd of people gathering to hear him, so he went up on a slope of a hill and sat down. With his followers and disciples spread over the hillside, Jesus began to teach them from his experience. His Sermon on the Hill describes his lived mystical experiences. That's the big key to this. He's not just telling us what we should do or what we should believe or what we should find. He's telling us about himself. Where else would his wisdom come from other than his own divine mystical experience in connection with the Holy of Holies, with the mystery of all, with the source of all being? His presence in the presence is what he uses to speak through. The Sermon on the Mount, the Sermon on the Hill, describes his lived mystical experiences. Let's listen to what happened to him. What bliss comes to me when I feel my spiritual poverty. For then heaven's realm enters me by blessing. The bliss of spiritual poverty, the lack of self, the emptiness of being. Spiritual poverty allows room for heaven's treasure. What bliss comes to me when I feel my spiritual poverty, for then heaven's realm enters me by blessing. This is the beginning of spiritual life, the emptying of self in spiritual poverty, as he did in his own life, as he lived and taught. Then he says, "What delight comes to me when I wait upon my beloved," capital B, "for I find what I long for." What delight comes to me when I wait upon my beloved, for I find what I long for. The delight of the divine comes when we wait upon our beloved, the he called Father. He's sometimes described as Mother. It's always the holy ineffable, the beloved, the infinity, the very present presence. What delight comes to me when I wait upon my beloved, for I find what I long for. Are you finding what you long for? Are you finding the beloved? Maybe the question is, what do you long for? Jesus longed for the beloved. An open heart seeks the one above because the one above is within. And when you seek the one above, the beloved becomes yours, in as much as the beloved already loves you. The longing of the heart becomes the delight, for we find what we seek when we look within. Next, he says, what blessing comes to me when gentleness lives in me? For I inherit the world, and gifts come by themselves. What blessings come to me? What gifts come to me when gentleness, not meekness, gentleness and humility lives inside of me through self-emptying? For then I inherit the world. I gain all the gifts. The gifts come by themselves. I don't have to seek them. They come of their own power as the presence of the divine makes space, fills the space we make inside ourselves. What gentleness, what blessing comes to me by gentleness. And it lives in me, it lives in us. For then we inherit the world. The gifts of the world come to us by themselves. Not the treasures that we seek like cars and money and or love even. The gifts that come to us are the spiritual gifts of strength and courage and fortitude, centeredness, kindness, love, bliss, joy, understanding, knowledge, peace, love. The gifts of the world, the gifts that come in the world, they come by themselves when gentleness lives inside us. And it is a blessing and a bliss. How enriched I am when I crave righteousness, for I am satisfied. What satisfies you? When Jesus talks of righteousness, I find that righteousness is the most difficult word to define, because what is righteousness? Righteousness is the divine self. When you crave the divine self, the righteousness satisfies us. If you are unsatisfied, if nothing in the world fills the hole within you, what do you want? Do you want satisfaction? Crave righteousness, Jesus says. When I crave righteousness, I am satisfied. Now you can hear that I'm speaking in the first voice as if Jesus was saying these to himself. I'm speaking in the I because it's my understanding that in order to speak a mystical experience, one must have had it. To have the knowledge, one must live in it. Jesus contains in the Sermon on the Mount the sayings of his soul, the teaching of his heart, not because it was some intellectual thing that happened to him, but because it's part of his mystical journey. Listen for what he teaches. How enriched am I? Enriched with the treasure of love. How enriched am I when I crave righteousness, when I crave and long for, and maybe even have sorrow for, because I know some of you sorrow for the divine. You long for your home so much it brings you to sorrow inside your heart. You're craving righteousness. For I, Jesus says, for I am then satisfied. I am satisfied. I, Peter, am satisfied only by the divine presence. Yes, I have satisfaction in other ways. I'm satisfied when I eat. I'm satisfied after sex. I'm satisfied after having water. I'm satisfied after exercise. I'm satisfied intellectually when I feed my brain with ideas that fill my head with thoughts of truth. Right now, I'm listening to one of the great courses called the Great Courses, and I'm listening to the Dead Sea Scrolls, and my mind is satisfied because I'm filling my head with thoughts that fill my brain with thoughts of the divine. But my soul remains unsatisfied by things of the physical world and things even of my intellectual curiosity. The only thing that satisfies my soul, the only thing that enriches my life is the righteousness, craving the righteousness of the divine, as Jesus spoke and taught. It turns out to be true, at least in my life. So, how blessed am I, says Jesus? How blessed am I when I demonstrate living mercy? How blessed am I when I demonstrate living mercy, when I live living kindness, loving kindness, when I live loving kindness. For merciful is to be demonstrated in me. How blessed am I when I live, when I show mercy, for then the merciful is demonstrated in me. How blessed am I when I show mercy, for the merciful is demonstrated through me. The capital M, merciful, for love is mercy. I experienced that when I was dead, the most merciful love. And when I live loving kindness, when I show with the radiance of my soul and that is light that is not mine, when I live in the mercy of the divine, I show mercy in life, and the love is then demonstrated in me. Oh, what bliss you experience when your heart is pure. Not that you behave in 100% purity, but when your soul is open for the space of purity. If there is nothing else true about the divine space, the divine now, the eternal presence, it's when you are in the state of righteousness that the soul in that space, that tiny little spot of now, and that stillness and that silence and that emptiness, that is the purity of the divine self. Oh, what bliss you experience when your heart is pure, and that silence is just the beginning of the purity of bliss. It expands and grows. Hearts can be made more pure. Hearts can be made pure. We empty ourselves. We empty ourselves and create the space inside ourselves for the divine radiance to live inside us and then project out from us into the world that carries the mercy of our souls because of humility, because of love. For then your eyes will be open like mine, says Jesus, to see more and more of God everywhere you look and in everyone you meet. Blessed are the merciful, for they will obtain mercy, because you see the divine inside of the humans you meet. You're able to then be merciful to them because you know the mercy inside yourself. This is a cyclical thing. It comes into us, goes into others, and comes back to us. What we feed into the world, our karma, what we feed into the world gets fed back to us. We eat ourselves. We eat the life we live inside ourselves. We consume that, and that becomes who we are. How joyful I am when I make peace. How joyful I am when I make peace. I made peace inside myself today. I am a peacemaker from the inside out, not from the outside in. Nothing external satisfies the longing of the soul. You cannot bring something outside you, inside you, to make peace inside you. You make peace inside yourself. Blessed are the peacemakers. You make peace on the inside of you, and then you can make peace in the world around you through the presence of the divine inside you, shared among us. When you make peace, then you will be recognized as a true child of light because the peace lives inside you. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they are the children of God. The peace shows inside you when you carry it, and it comes into the world. How enriched I am when I am trolled for doing what is right, for saying what is right. For then I experience the higher realm, the higher dimension of heaven's kingdom here now, for it causes me to dive deeper in. The struggle causes me to dive deeper in when I am persecuted, to dive deeper in where I find the treasures of strength, courage, love, and fortitude. How blessed are you when people insult you, or persecute you, or speak cruel lies about you because of your love for the Christ consciousness, because of your love for Allah, because of your love for the ineffable, because of your love for the source, because of your love for the infinite. Name it what you will for the I am, the love for the I am, the hovye vovye, the higher, truer me, capital H, capital T. So, leap for joy, he says. Leap for joy, since your heavenly reward is great. Your heavenly reward is great. Treasure awaits you. The treasure of heaven. I've been trying to communicate the power of the treasure of heaven since the moment I came back from the dead the first time. The reward of heaven is so much greater than you can conceive here. You can touch it and taste it, like Paul did when he fell off his donkey and the great light, like you have. In any of your mystical experiences, the glimpse that you have here is merely, that I have here, is merely a glimpse of the greatness of the reward that awaits you in heaven. There is treasure that awaits you in heaven, treasure that awaits you in heaven that is so far beyond conception that it is indescribably ineffable. The reward of heaven starts here now. Heaven here now. The eschaton, the apocalypse. Jesus never left. The Christ light is here now. The reward is here now. He came to teach us that heaven is here now. It's intimate. It's intimate inside you. The treasure starts in the temple of your heart, and you can clear away the things you don't need inside your heart now, and receive the treasures of purity and heaven and mercy and love and blessedness. And they're not the treasures of the world. They're not going to give you the yacht. They're not going to give you the house on the hill. They're going to give you the golden heart. They're going to give you the heart of fire that lasts eternally. You are an incarnated soul living in a mortal body. Set your eyes upon the world, and you'll have the world as a reward. And it's beautiful. But set your eyes on heaven. Set your heart on purity. Set your heart on righteousness. And the reward in heaven is immeasurable, immeasurable, capital I, immeasurable. I know this. I know this. Jesus knows this. He's speaking from this place of heaven within him. His radiance far exceeds mine, far exceeds mine. But I've had enough to know he speaks the truth. For you are being rejected, persecuted, trolled in the same way as the mystics were before you, as Jesus was, as Paul was, as Peter was, as, let's see, who else? Teresa and Catherine and Rumi and Abba Ibn and who else? Many others. Look at the shelves. Find the books. Mystics were rejected. You're rejected because you connect to the divine. And it's totally cool because the light is eternal. The deeper you fall into the light, the stronger you are in the presence of God, the more courage you have in life. And then it becomes less important, not unimportant, but less important. Life becomes less important, but by being less important, it becomes empowered by the presence of God. And blessed are you. Blessed are you. Not with the things of the world, but with the coming of the presence of the rewards of heaven here and now. And look, I've lived this for 40 frickin' years. I started this journey before my near-death experience, my first one. I've been a lifelong mystic. I find that my time in the temporal world becomes, the veil becomes thinner and thinner the deeper I go. the radiance becomes stronger and stronger. This thing, capital T, that is no thing that can be described, can live and radiate inside your life. The Sermon on the Mount, go back and read it in your own Bible for reading whatever translation you have. Remember, the Bible is always a translation, and we could talk about that someday. And what words were Jesus's and what words might not have been, but that's not what we're about today. Go back and read it for yourself and maybe listen to this again if you need to hear Jesus speak about his mystical experience in the first person. And we radiate it, the light radiates among us now, even as we allow ourselves to put on the mind of consciousness. Paul says, put on the mind of Christ, put on the mind of consciousness, open up to the mind of the divine, which is your true self, and clothe yourselves in the ineffable, in the holy light, who some call that Christ consciousness, some call the divine mind, or some simply call the beloved. And we're gathered here, and it is here with us. It has to be, because everything is made of love. And when we merely open ourselves to it, it manifests to us. The radiance is like what happens. Oh, yes. The radiance we feel between us here and now. This radiance is like what happens at every single IANDS conference I go to, where the radiance from each NDEer is multiplied by the presence of all of the people who are gathered in one place until a oneness bubble covers the entire IANDS annual conference. I've experienced this. It's the most powerful place I've ever been in terms of the presence of the divine, with a close second, maybe even superseded by the Trappist monks in the monastery at St. Joseph's and St. Benedict's Abbey, where those individual monks radiate the presence of the divine. The annual IANDS conference is like a big bubble fest of divine light, a celebration. And you can ask any NDEer who's ever attended. And I'm going to let you know that I'm going to be a guest speaker along with some of my friends online, Zoom, or maybe not Zoom, but it's online, over Labor Day weekend. I'm a guest speaker. The International Association for Near-Death Studies is the world leader in scientific near-death studies. And later today at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, I'll be speaking on the subject, Are You a Mystic? At the Denver, Colorado IANDS by Zoom. And you can find a link to attend to that event on my authors page on Facebook. And down below, what the heck? The light is bright. Whoa, my light just came up. Whoa! I don't know why that happened. You can find the links below in the description. Now may peace, blessing, joy, and bliss be lively in you and resonate and radiate among us now, always. Peace be with you. Amen. Hey, I'm going to take a second here. In just a second, I'm going to turn this light down, unless it's not troublesome to you. I don't know what happened, but wow. Hold on a sec. I'm back. I'm back. That was pretty incredible. I'm not sure what caused that to happen, but yeah, maybe I was like, weird. I do have trouble with electromagnetism. That was the crazy thing is the two lamps are linked, and it was only this lamp that went up. What the heck? Anyway, so if you enjoyed this video, especially the end, please give it a thumbs up. And remember, your gifts of support keep this content coming to you and to others for free. I've started a new series of short videos called Questions and Answers. I answer questions that come to me now, sometimes in public. There's a link in the description below also where you can find all the other links I mentioned. So check out my website, peterpanagore.love, for ways to donate. Look for the heart on the homepage. Heart, right? So can't point to that backwards. As well as upcoming speaking events and engagements and workshops that you might be interested in. You can join us live on Zoom today at the top of the hour for our weekly wisdom conversations at Mystic Tea Salon. Find the link and the password below in the description and in the comments. Okay. Please tell me what you think about what I said today and how I put it in the context of Jesus's interior life, his own mystical experiences. Did it help open it up for you? That's what I want to know. Because anyone who talks about mysticism without the direct divine experience is either a scholar and they have an intellectual grasp of the material, or they are a mystic who speaks out of their partial knowledge, or they're making it up. You can't gain this kind of knowledge in your head. Anyway, my friends, I'm going to go over to the super chat and thank you for all of your super chats this morning. I meant to say thank you all the way along, but I was kind of looking at my teleprompter and just startled by the light. Whoa, the light that came up. Anyway, cheapers, I even took off my glasses and squinting at the teleprompter here. This is spectacular, amazing. Yes, thank you, Ellen. Thank you, Ellen. Powerful message. The light was truly made manifest, says Kristen. Thank you. That's what we're aiming to do here. All of this tick tock, 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 blah, 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 blah. It's not about the blah, blah, blah. It's really about the divine presence. Okay. If the words and the intellectual examinations and the twisting of the meanings and interpretations and metaphors really resonate with you, let me know. But really, truly, it's about the divine light itself. It's the radiance. It's the radiance between us that matters most, because the light speaks for itself. That is the beauty of it. It's the beauty of it. That's why you get to see it in another when you're merciful, right? You see it in another because you're looking at the divine, and the divine in you is seeing the divine in them. That's the way it works. So thanks, Self Luminosity and Primary Feathers, too. All right. Hey, thanks, Desert Claire, on A Course in Miracles, new edition. I'll check that out. Okay, I don't know what that's about. I must have missed that earlier comment. I never really understood what was meant by spiritual poverty or blessed are the poor in spirit. Should it not be spiritual richness? No, just the opposite, EK. You get the spiritual richness from heaven, not from yourself. That has to do with the idea of self-emptying. The poverty of spirit is self-emptying. The weakness is where your strength is. If you think that you are the most, I am some. Okay, I'll tell you this. Some very famous yogi who had stores and shops all over the world who loved hot yoga. I'm not going to mention his name. Um, once said, "I am the most spiritual person you're ever going to meet." I made up the accent. If you believe that you are a spiritually advanced person, that's generally a sign that you're not. Okay. Yes, there are levels. Okay. But really, spiritual advancement is all about weakness and humility and selflessness. That's why meditation is the process of self emptying. It's the process of self-negation, because only in spiritual poverty, only in the poverty of the self, of the ego self, of the false self, of the egoic self, only in the poverty of that is spiritual advancement possible. Spiritual poverty here we go. Spiritual poverty brings mystical wealth. Right? Because spirituality is what you do in your life, right? Mysticism is what God gives you as grace. My spiritual director, Theophane Boyd from St. Joseph's Abbey, student of Thomas Keating, centering prayer, yada, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, once said to me when I came to him with I'm stumbling over the words because I don't want to have to tell you the mystical story at the moment. But I came to him in the monastery with this incredible mystical story, this thing that had happened to me. And he said, Panagore, Panagore, spiritual gifts are given to the weak. They are. The weaker your ego becomes, not meek and mild and doormat and run over by some tough bully. That's not what I'm talking about. Because the what happens when your ego is weak and you open to the divine presence, you actually gain courage you never had before, and strength to stand up to bullies, and strength to face life. So in your weakness you find growth, because it destroys the paradigm of the brittle nature of the ironclad life. When that ironclad life is shattered, it creates the possibility for the divine richness to come inside you and flow in. That's what he's talking about. Jesus found in his own spiritual poverty the wealth of heaven. Does that make sense? I hope maybe helps. Thank you, Mali. Thank you very much, Mali Yazdan, for the super chat. Um, Amazing and wonderful. Thank you. And everyone, says Annie K. You're welcome. Yeah, powerful sharing today. Thanks, Margie. Um, I really needed this lift. Thank you. Says, you're welcome, Primary Feathers. I am here doing this thing with the sole intent, with the sole intent to create the opportunity for you to find the divine inside you and deepen your journey. Because the greatest guru there is the divine presence itself. This is why I remain a student. This is why I remain a seeker. I seek because I know that my beloved is so much greater than me, has so much more infinite power and presence than I have, that I can only spend my life in pursuit of the holy presence of the light itself and share it as much as possible. So you can find it inside yourself, so we can create a global sized community of light seekers from all over the world, not just us in our little tiny not church group, but there are people like us all over the world in pursuit of this one thing. And when we join our hearts together here, we join the greater global mystical pursuit of the oneness of being, even if we don't ever meet them, because the light meets itself. That's why I do this. Am I trying to help do my part of a global consciousness awareness and a raising and awakening? You betcha. That's exactly what I'm trying to do. I'm putting my oar in, as we used to say, out in the boating world. Humility comes with spirituality, says Laurie. Humility comes with spirituality. It does. It's a gift of God. It's a gift of the divine. If there is no spiritual humility, I often wonder what's really going on in that person. And it makes me question the depth of their spirituality. And my chipmunk, I'd show you the chipmunk, because I'd have to move the camera to do that. But the chipmunks are coming in today, and they're scattering seeds all over my desk, which is cool. But they're running in and out of here. If you hear scattering and skittering, um, there are the people, the meek and the open, that feel so good to be around. That's the thing. The meek, the open, the humble. They radiate the divine because their weakness, their ego is weak, allowing space for the divine presence to be powerful inside them. Deep truths. Not my truths, Helen. That's the great thing about it. These are divine truths. Very deep, though. A new kind of strength. Amen. Thank you for giving voice to that. Thanks, Wendy, that's the only strength there really is to endure in life. At least for me. I've lived a pretty incredible life, um, in my small way. And the only reason why I've been able to deal with the tremendously difficult community-based tragedies that I've been involved in through ministry is because of this divine strength. On my own, I could never do it. I am too little and too weak for that. I'm going to take a little drink of water here for my new glass. Thank you for my new glass. Sorry, I shouldn't put it so close to the mic you get to hear me slurp. That was kind of rude. I won't do that again. Um, Believing in all and anything is possible leaves zero doubt the divine is always present, in that we should stop judging others and become humble. Yes, Mountain Rain, the humility of the lack of judgment of others arises out of the direct connection to the divine. The deeper the connection one has with the divine itself, where there is no self with a small s, with itself with a capital I and a capital S, itself, the more humility grows on its own and judgment becomes lesser. It becomes lesser on its own. We judge less when we see two things. We see the divine inside us, when we see with humility the power and the presence is so much greater than us, and when we see the divine inside others, but also when we see in our fleshly self, our physical world, the same sort of brokenness inside of other people. My brokenness is the same as your brokenness. Your brokenness is broken in one way. My brokenness is broken in another way. What do I mean by that? I have different sufferings than you. My sufferings might be, well, my loss of my sister. Maybe you lost your brother. That's different and similar. Maybe you're in prison. Maybe you have a a physical ailment, or injury, or uh, otherly abled person that prevents you from doing things that you would love to do, and that's a brokenness. All brokennesses are the same. We're equally broken. But when one sees the divine inside oneself, this humility of sameness, the same brokenness and the same light being become more manifest. The key to non judgment is this inner humility. And the inner humility comes when you seek righteousness and crave it with all your heart. Then the humility arises. It's never perfect, right? The ego, we got to still have an ego in order to live in the world, but it improves. It improves. Um, I volunteer with hospice. Then, Margie, you know for sure, volunteering with hospice, that's awesome work, dealing on the edge of death all the time. To mourn may be to become bereft as we become emptied of the old self, poor in spirit. Maybe these are linked. Thank you, Ken. Yes, we mourn. Thank you for that. We mourn. We might mourn. We might mourn for the loss of ourselves. But really, when the self is lost and the divine self enters in, wow, it's totally overshadows all the grief. Blessed are you who mourn, for yours is the kingdom of God. Blessed are you who sorrow for the world, for yours is the kingdom of God. Blessed are you who mourn for your loss of self, for yours is the kingdom of God. Sorry, I missed some of this. Come back and hear at the beginning, Cal. Cal Extra. Love from the UK. Rigovich. Hi, Rigovich. Back right across the ocean. I'm living on the Atlantic on the other side here, over here. Waving. You see me? Give us a heads up on the IANDS conference coming up. I'd love to. Yes, I will give you a heads up on it. That's why I was mentioning it this morning as an early heads up for that. Slurp away. Thank you. I will. Delish. We have delicious water here where I live. We're very fortunate that way. No need to apologize. We're all family here. Thank you. And the broken open can happen. Yeah, we can break open. We break open. Sorry, you're late, Rob. No big deal. You can rewind it and watch it from the start like you say you will. That's awesome. Jim Z, what's your sense? Oh, and I want to thank you, Lori, Mountain Gal. Thank you, Lori, for the super chat. Jim Z, what's your sense of the meaning of inherit the earth and blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth? Inherit the earth rather than inherit heaven. I'm pretty sure Jesus is talking about the gifts of heaven inherited here. Maybe the humble in some future generation, maybe the spiritual awakening will cause all humanity. If all humanity spiritually awaken, maybe we'll get to inherit the earth here. But in the meanwhile, the inheritance I believe that Jesus is talking about are the gifts of heaven that happen here. They're fragments of this world. They're fragments of heaven in the world. We inherit the gifts of God here in heaven. That's the way I take it, because I experienced those gifts myself. And because my hope isn't in the world, my hope is in heaven. My hope in love is in heaven. Um, I think the humble inherit the gifts of heaven here on earth in the world, and they feel like gifts of the world. Am I making sense? I hope so. Does that make sense, Jim? Let me know. I've found you through the Union of the Unwanted podcast. That was such a cool conversation. Hi, Lori. The Union of the Unwanted. I'm going to be on another one of Sam Tripoli's broadcasts coming up in a couple of weeks. I'm not sure which one. He does so many. But Sam and I are going to have a talk. I'm looking forward to it. Another week or so. Love your work so much. Thank you. Thank you, Lori. The Union of the Unwanted. That was quite an interesting conversation that night. There were like 15 people there, and it was wide ranging. I loved being there, and I thank Sam for inviting me. Vicky, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. I'll come back to the beginning. Rick in Laos. I wonder how you say it in Laos, though. I bet I'm not saying it right. Ariane, I felt like Peter didn't speak, but Christ came through Peter. The whole thing that I'm trying to do here in all of my life, for the whole of my being, since the moment of my return, is be a channel of peace for God. I'm trying not to channel some other person or some angel or some entity. I just want to channel the divine, the light of the divine, and let it speak for itself. If that's what happened today for you, if you felt like Christ was speaking through me, it's because I'm trying to be poor in spirit. I'm trying to be empty of self. I'm trying to let the light speak through me, using me and the words that I have, knowing that I am a temporary being and I am passing through here. And I'm just trying to help. And I thank you for saying that this morning. That is always my goal. It felt to me like I got out of the way enough today to let the light come through. That is always my goal, so that it's not me who speaks. It's the light that speaks inside my words, so that it's not my words that matter, but the divine presence itself that has no words to contain it, but yet speaks to the ear of the heart, through the throat chakra, through the lips, through the mouth, through the open heart and open mind, and heard by the ear of the soul, because the ear of the soul connects to the very same place as the heart of the soul in everyone. No division there, only oneness. That's my goal. Blessings. My many losses have gifted me with deep insight, says Brother Ed. That's what comes from suffering. Deep insight, if you let it come in. What's your take on Chiron and other channels, Peter? People want to channel, that's totally cool. The sutras talk about that. And I think it's the fourth section. I'd have to look. But the sutras, the Pantajali talks about that in the sutras. It's totally cool. You want to channel somebody, Chiron and everybody else, you're connecting to the holy divine, because all of those entities are part of the divine. As for me, I want the oneness of being and nothing less. So I pursue that. Someone wants to pursue something else, that's fine with me. And if they're bringing light into the world, as long as their ego isn't in the way, as long as they're actually channeling a divine entity, fine. But as for me, That's not what I pursue. That's not what I want. I want the oneness of being itself, because I am no longer thinking of myself as a mortal, not for 40 years. I am a higher self, and my higher self wants the highest self. Channel, sure. I choose to pursue the divine and be a channel of peace. I want to channel the light itself, nothing less. Not just for the benefit of the world, but selfishly for my own benefit, because the whole purpose of my journey is to reconnect me with the divine self with a capital S, the Atman with an A, capital A, my little Atman, my little self, capital S, small s, small a, with the higher self, the higher Atman, nothing less for me. Ah, boy, that's, whew, wow. Thank you for helping to inspire me and give me hope and reminding me that I work for God and to keep my mission. Iona McLeod, keep your mission. You work for God. I work for the boss, capital B. Keep your mission, because you are a worker. And at the end of the day, end of the work day, which is the end of your life, you'll punch out, or your contract here will end, and you'll go to your retirement, your great retirement in the sky. I know that sounds silly, but it's like that, only better. Great is your reward in heaven. Yes, Peter, that seems to be how it worked this morning, says Capital. Amen to that. You let the light shine through you every week, says Beth, and it helps to see and be the light. The more you practice, emptying yourself in weakness, seeking the righteousness, the more you see the light in others, the more susceptible you are to its presence, the more it penetrates your veil, the more it comes in past your armor, the more it lives inside you. This is how it works. That's why we share it together, because we break each other's armor when we share it, because we show each other light. It cracks us open. More and more, it splits us open. Once the crack's begun, the split can become wider. The divine I am inside. Here's the divine in you. I am grateful. Me too, Mountain Rain. Yes, the soul is eternal, says Ian. Iona, sorry. I'll get it right. I will. I'll try anyway. You're inspiring me. It takes courage to do this type of work. Yeah, I've definitely, there are prices to pay for this kind of stuff, for stepping out there in the public sphere, for standing in the public arena. That's, the trolls and the persecution. Not so bad right now. It's been a lot worse in my life. At the moment, not so bad. But, I wonder why I don't get invited to parties anymore in my town, or seldom do anyway. I have one interest, and now that it's in the open, but, a friend of mine told me once, an acquaintance of mine told me once, he's sort of like he's the town um, death doula in a rural town in West Virginia. And nobody wants to really talk to him until they really need to, and then they want him. And that's kind of how I see myself. I'm sort of the shaman in the town where I live. One of them, anyway. Anyway, the soul's eternal. God has a wonderful job preparing you and molding you to be able to do this. Yeah, I definitely have been led in this path, no doubt about it. And I've been molded like a lump of clay. I'm a lump of clay on the potter's wheel, or better yet, I am molten glass in the glass blower's hand. Definitely shaped. Be in the river, and we are all blessed in the river. Amen to that. I would invite you to my party. Thanks, Kelly. I would come. Thanks. Um, I'd party with you, Peter. Rob. Yeah, it's like I've been known, or I've been known to. I don't like getting drunk, but I've been known to having enjoying myself. Let's put it that way. I've been known to enjoy myself. Once I left the ministry, so as a clergy in my town, and I gotta go in a minute, is it's 10:56. As a clergy person in my town, I was not allowed to go into the bars and hang out, but that's what Jesus did. Jesus was hanging out with the drinkers, and not the drinkers, but the partiers, the fun people, the fun people. But, sometimes the people who drink a lot and party a lot, they're not really as fun as they think they are. But now that I'm not in a clergy position anymore, I like hanging out with people, where the people socialize, and people socialize in bars, and alcohol does lower social inhibition, and they're more likely to talk spirituality with me then. So I talk a lot of God in bars. And I got to go in a minute. I really do. I'm a persona non grata for the most part too. The absence of the people is sad, but probably more peaceful than having them around, says Wanda. Yeah. Anyway, my friends, I've got to go. Come dance with me. Well, if you saw me dance, maybe you'd have to think that through. Anyway, I gotta go. I gotta go. Peace and love to you all. See you next week. Thanks for coming today. Like the video, subscribe. If this has been meaningful for you, let me know. Drop into the comments. I gotta go. Peace and love. I'll see you at the top of the hour. The link is in the description for Zoom for Mystic Tea Salon. And there's my little chipmunk. Hi, sweetie. All right. Peace and love, everybody. Namaste.